Hey guys, it's Anthony here from AC Property Group. So this week's video is all around how to pick your area. If you want to find out more, then make sure you stay tuned. So last week we talked about which strategy you should pick when starting out in property based on the amount of time and money that you've got available to you. So we're going to break down each strategy in a little bit more detail and work out which area you should pick when starting out with these strategies. Today we're going to focus on which area you should pick to invest in when looking at buy, refurbish, refinance, buy to let and flips as a strategy. Now most investors really struggle with this, so I'm hoping that you find the information useful today and it helps you pick your area.
Okay, so now we're going to look at how we choose our investment area. Now, it's my opinion that you can find all the property deals you'll ever need within an hour's distance from where you live. Now, I understand if you live in London, this might be a little bit more difficult and you may have to travel to your investment area. However, I think that the investment area you should pick, you shouldn't be traveling any more than an hour of radius around from that investment area to find your next deal. So I'm going to put in my investment area on this website I use called mapdevelopers.com, and the area that I'm going to pick is Stoke-on-Trent, and I'm going to put a 30-mile radius. And the reason I'm doing 30 miles is because that's an hour's distance of travel from Stoke-on-Trent. So I know that I'm not trying to pick too big of an area to find for my investment area. So if I hit new circle, and I'm going to make the screen big. So you can see it's given me a good rounded area of what's going on in Stoke-on-Trent and around the area. So that now I can look at some detail of these surrounding towns to see whether they're going to fit with my investment strategy. So in the centre we've obviously got Stoke-on-Trent, and then we've got Stafford down here, as well as Crewe and Nantwich up here. We've also got Macclesfield, Wilmslow, Knutsford. So we've got a range of towns that we can now investigate from my investment area, from the center point of my investment area, to see whether they work for the strategy that I'm looking at. So the next thing we want to do is now look at the detail of these to see whether they're going to work. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is move across to Rightmove, because we want to have a look at some detail of the areas around our investment area and see what the sale and rental demand is in the area. So first thing I'm going to do is pop in my central location, which is Stoke-on-Trent, and I'm going to hit for sale. And then what I want to change on here is the maximum price. So we want to set this just higher than what the average price range is currently in the area. So I'm going to change this to £200,000 because I know that the average house price in Stoke is £150,000. Now we want to look at different types of property within the area to give us a really good idea of the sale ratio. So I'm going to set my bedroom type to 2, and I'm going to set my property type to just houses, and I'm going to hit find properties. And this has given us 346 properties available. Now we do need to put some filters on this because there are obviously some things that we don't want to see and we do want to see on this. So I'm going to put get rid of new homes, shared ownership and retirement homes. And as I said, we're looking to get some real detail about the area, so I'm going to change the property type to just terraced houses. So what this has given us is shown that there are now 233 properties available that meet our requirements. So 2-bed houses in Stoke-on-Trent, no more than £200,000. So now we want to look at how many of these have actually sold. So go back to the filter option and include sold subject to contract. So we can see that that figure has now gone up to 493. So that means that there are 259 properties that have sold in the area versus current 235 that are on the market. So as quite a service level detail, this is telling me that Stoke-on-Trent is actually quite a good buying area for 2-bedroom houses. So again, we can change our criteria to have a look at some more detail. So I'm going to change it now to 3 beds. And So we're now just looking at 3-bedroom properties at £200,000, and we're just looking at 3-bedroom terrace houses. So currently on the market there are 114 properties available. Now we're going to change our filter to include sold subject to contract, and you can see it jumps up to 241. So again, that tells me that there are 114 on the market for sale and 128 have sold. So again, that tells me that there's more houses selling in the area than there are being sold. So again, that tells me that this area of Stoke-on-Trent is going to be really good for flips and buying properties to sell at the minute. So I'm going to show you one more where we're going to look at 2-bedroom properties that are now semi-detached houses. And I'm going to take off our sold subject to contract. So on this we've got 93 properties currently available that are 2-bedroom semi-detached houses, and we're going to have a look at how many have sold, so include our sold subject to contract, and you can see it goes up to 208. So that tells me that there's 114 that have sold recently in the area versus the 94 that are available for sale. Now you can go through this in more detail and look at different areas, and also you can look at specific postal codes within the area. So if we change this to ST1, so we're just looking at the ST1 postcode now, and we hit search, and this is going to bring up all the properties that are available, 2-bed terrace houses, 2-bed semi-detached houses that are available just in the ST1. And I'm just going to check that my filters have gone back on, so because we don't want to see all of these. So in this area there are 6 properties currently on the market that meet our requirements, and then if we add the sold subject to contract, you can see the number goes up to 15, which means that there's 9 properties that are sold in this area versus the 6 that are currently on the market. So we know that now we've looked at the detail of this particular area to know that the ST1 postcode for semi-detached 2-bed houses works really well, and there's quite a high sale demand in this particular area. Okay, so once you've looked at all the details of your investment area, you should build a spreadsheet that looks a little bit something like this. Now this is looking at the sale demand in the area for different types of properties, and you can see I broke it down from location, and I broke down some postal codes within this area to see what the sale demand is. And this is giving me a really good idea that the ST2 postcode, currently based on the information on Rightmove, says that there's a really good sale demand for 2-bed terrace houses in that area. ST4 has a good sale demand for 2-bed terraces, and so does ST6. So these are the kind of properties that I'm going to want to see estate agents about. And then again, if we look at the 3-bed terrace houses, we can see which ones tend to work really well in the area based on the sale ratio currently, and so on with the semi-detached houses and also the 3-bed semi-detached houses. So hopefully that's given you a really good idea of how to look for the sale demand in your particular area. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to Rightmove, and we're now going to look at the rental demand in the area. And this gives us a good idea whether the area works really well for buy, refurbish, refinance, or just generally what the rental demand is if you're doing a vanilla buy-to-let strategy. So I'm going to put in my central location, which is Stoke-on-Trent, and I'm going to hit properties to rent. And we're generally just going to repeat the same process we did when looking at the sale ratio. So I'm going to start with 2-bedroom properties. I'm not going to put a max price range on rent because generally this should be about the same in the area. Any anomalies, shouldn't really affect us too much on this range. So I'm going to put houses, and I'm going to hit find properties. And then I'm going to change my filter. So what I don't want to see on this is I don't want to see any semi-detached and detached houses at the minute. I'm just looking at terrace houses, 2-bed terrace houses. So you can see that there are 91 properties currently available to rent in the Stoke-on-Trent area. Now, if we look at the filter to include let agrees, so we can see that this figure has now jumped up to 146 properties. meaning that if we take the 91 properties off this, that there are 57 properties that have rented in the area currently. So this means that the ratio in this area is about 18 to 1 properties. So for 18 that are on the market, 11 have rented out. Now, there is one thing to note with Rightmove when it comes to rental, and that is once the properties have been let agreed, they only stay on Rightmove for about 2 weeks. So it is quite common to see about a 2 to 1 ratio for properties on the market versus the ones that are rented. But really, this is, again, it's a surface level idea to give you detail of which areas you should hone down on and focus on as being your investment area to go and see estate agents. Okay, so we're going to have a little bit more. Okay, so we're going to have a look at a little bit more detail. Okay, so we're going to have a look at a little bit more detail now in the area. So I'm going to change my search to ST1 and I'm going to hit search. So we're now looking for properties in the ST1 area that are a 2-bedroom terraced house. And let's just check our let agreed is taken off. And so there's 20 currently on the market available to rent in this particular area. And again, if we add our let agreed, and of them, there's actually 10 that have rented out recently that are let agreed. So that gives this a 2 to 1 ratio. For every 2 houses that are on the market in this area, 1 has rented. So again, this is probably an area I'm going to go and want to visit the agents and see whether it is actually quite a hot spot for renting at the minute, or if for some reason these figures aren't correct. Okay, so we're going to look at one more now. So let's have a look at some semi-detached houses in the area. So we're going to go to, we'll keep the ST1 postcode and we'll change it to semi-detached houses. And we'll make sure we take off our let agreed. So in this area, there are no 2-bedroom semi-detached houses in the area currently available for rent. Let's have a look to see if any have agreed let recently. Wow, okay, so there are no properties available to rent currently, 2-bedroom terrace houses in this area, but there are actually 2 that have agreed let. So this is probably an area where I would be looking to pick up a 2-bedroom semi-detached house, because it doesn't look like there's enough on the market recently for the demand that's in the area. But again, I'd be looking at some more detail about the letting agents in the area to see what they think. And again, once you've gone through all the details of your area, you should have built a spreadsheet up that looks a little bit something like this. So it gives you a good idea of the rental demand in the area and the ratio of the rents that are available. So you can see we looked at ST1 and we looked at the semi-detached houses there. So that, you know, we can see that that's going to be a great ratio. And when we looked at ST2, 2-bedroom semi-detached houses, we found the same ratio. So these are really areas where I'm going to go and want to see properties in this area. I'm probably going to want to talk to estate and letting agents and see if there actually is quite a good demand there in this particular area. So that should give you a good detail on how to look at the rental demand in the area and help you hone your strategy for sort of vanilla buy-to-lets and buy refurbish refinance.
So now you should have a great surface level idea of your investment area. Don't forget, this is just a surface level idea and you now need to go out and do some more research. So what you need to do now is go out and walk the streets of this investment area. Because ultimately, until you visit the area, you don't know if it's going to work. I'd recommend at this point also going into estate and letting agents with a map of the area and asking them to circle areas on the map that if they had the money right now, they would be investing. Because don't forget, these people are the experts, so they'll know exactly where to buy the properties that are going to sell quickly and also the ones that are going to rent out really well. And finally, I'd like to recommend a book to you at this point. It's by a gentleman called Mark Ianson, and this book's called Dominate Your Ground. And it's absolutely fantastic with hints and tips to help you become an expert of your area and truly dominate. Guys, really hope you enjoyed that video. Don't forget, we're going to be documenting all of our property journey. So if there's something specific you want to see, then make sure you drop me a comment below and I'll add it into our next video. See you next time.